All right, so it's Damon here. It's about 5:15 in the morning. I've gotten uh, not enough rest, but I'm kind of been contemplating a few things. And over the past year, I have typed quite a few individuals professionally. And one of the things that I really want to dive into, because I've had this conversation numerous times, and people that I've typed, uh, you know, there's circumstances in which we naturally, all as MBTI enthusiasts, tend to feel that hold on, let me make sure all my settings are right so you guys can hear me. Okay. So we tend to feel that our our observation of people's type preference is solid truth. And as of today, there was a particular comment which kind of set off the whole chain of endless researching to not only validate what I already knew, but to kind of put to bed the whole concept of type preference, of the um, of clients reporting, which is the what the testing process is. Okay, so I'm going to go through this and let you guys know step by step using official MBTI tools. Everything, the resources that I have, I've got my desk full of stuff, so you guys can have a full experience of what it is like, not to actually experience the instrument, but what it is like, making sure that everything is ethical, and understanding that the typing process online, just looking at someone's video is not the appropriate way to assess someone's type. Okay, I just spent 2 hours with Michael Pierce last night, 2.5 hours almost, really working with him and working with him in the sense of just typing in his psychology, seeing how he's come to his type, his identified type, and kind of the way he processes information. Because what we're looking for here is the way that people process information. They follow a particular process, and what you're looking for is that process. And so, I want to make this video so you guys can understand that we're not looking at behaviors. Okay, so if we take a look, and I've done this in another video, in multitudes of videos, and hopefully the title of this video will get you guys to understand that online trolling or offline trolling, and just pointing your finger and telling people what type there is, oh they are, or what you see is not an ethical way of determining type at all. It's not ethical, and it's coming from a position of arrogance. Okay, it's coming from a position of, um, you know, you're assuming that you know that person better than themselves. And I've used this example numerous times. If I am, uh, if you see me every day eating a sandwich, okay, every single day, you might assume that I actually like sandwiches, right? You might assume it. But what you don't know is that I'm too poor to afford my favorite food, right? I don't have the money to afford, whatever I really enjoy. So the circumstances actually uh, stretched me to use something that's out of preference. It's not my preference to eat sandwiches every day, but I'm in a position to where I've had to eat sandwiches every day. I would much prefer to have eggs or whatever it may be in this particular example, right? So we can't determine someone's preference by looking at their behavior. We are, as human beings, are designed to stretch, adapt, and mold to our environment to be able to accomplish something or do something, or get the result done, or do what our boss expects, right? If you prefer perceiving, your boss may actually indicate that they want a scheduled timeline. What do you have to do? You're not going, well, I'm a P preference, and I'm not going to do that because that's against my preferences, right? No, you actually learn to stretch and use those J facets. And there's facet pulls, which we're going to get into when we talk about step 2. So I'm going to start from the bottom so you guys understand. Typing professionally is not me asking you a bunch of random questions and at the end going, hey, you sound like an ENTP. That's what I think you are, right? That is not what it is. Okay, so uh, that's not what it's about. It follows a very specific and clearly indicated process in which you determine type. Okay, very specific. It's very specific. It's 3 steps. And I don't mean, okay, let me just do it this way. It's 3 phases. The first step, or the first part, of interpretation and verification, which is what it's called, okay, is you go through what we call a step one. And the step one determines the 4-letter preference. Okay, so if you're INFJ or INTP or whatever, INFP or whatever, it determines that 4-letter preference. So you have your step one reported part. And what you do as a practitioner is you walk through a clear and distinguished definition of non-biased, which is what we're trying to do, non-biased definitions of each preference pair. Okay. All right. So we have that. That's what we call type hypothesis. That's the first part. That's called self-reporting. Okay. That's the very first part of the step one. Very first part is reporting, is just getting the client to assume a preference on each one. Do I choose I or E? Do I choose S or N? Do I choose T or F? Or do I choose J or P? The client will choose. You do not choose as a practitioner. You do not say, oh, I think you prefer P. So in the step two, I spend about 3.5 hours with every single verification or interpretation and verification, about 3.5 hours each time. I've done this numerous times, and I'm telling you, I have not once chose someone's preference pair. They've asked me, well, what do you think I've used given this example or given this one? And I tell them, I tell them this is what I see or what I'm hearing, but let me know if that sounds like you. Does that sound like you or does it not? Because I could be misinterpreting what you're saying. I don't know you, right? I don't know you like that. I don't know what your preferences are. No matter how trained I am in MBTI, I have no idea what your preferences are, okay? So there's no way that I can tell someone what their type is. I can tell them what process they're using if they give me an example. Okay. So if someone says, I like to have I like to make schedules, that doesn't mean anything. That's a behavior, right? Making schedules. Well, why do you like to make schedules? What happened? The word like is the key word there. Liking indicates maybe a potential preference, right? So what we have to do is we have to ask it just right to figure out which one the client may prefer, right? And you can say, look, I'm hearing a lot of the word like toward the P characteristics of P, right? A lot of the characteristics of P, I'm hearing the word like. I'm hearing that you like to take things loose and open-ended. Does that sound like you? Yeah, okay. Do you agree with these points? And if they go, no, that doesn't sound like me, then we need to explore further. I'm not going to go, nope, you told me this and you're a P. There's no question in my mind. That's not how it works, okay? That's not how type verification and interpretation works. So the first step is self-reporting. The client goes through, picks their dichotomy, each preference pair they select which one. That's a hypothesis. That's what they think they are after a thorough explanation of each one. Okay. Second thing, once we do that, you deliver the reported type. Here's what the indicator, not test, indicator is showing you. It's pointing you in this direction. Okay, the indicator is pointing you in this direction. The indicator is revealing that you could be this type. Okay, so if you report it as an INTJ, but your hypothesis went INFJ, which one's right? Okay, what we do as a professionals, we move to the third phase. It's called type verification. And type verification is not, again, it's not me as the professional telling you, I think you're an INFJ and that's what you are. Okay, it's not what it's about. This is, and I've seen this online over and over and over again. And these poor victims, I mean, golly, getting attacked by people telling them more about themselves than themselves. You do not know these people. This is very frustrating for me. It's incredibly frustrating for me. I get so frustrated with, seeing people forcing their type knowledge on somebody and trying to use theory and pressing it on somebody because they think they know that person, or they're assuming or asserting that they know that person. That is not the proper approach to this. And it gets really frustrating when I see it. I don't like it on my channel. It's incredibly frustrating because you do not know these people. You look at behavior and you assume a certain thing, right? How do you think life impacts the result of behavior? Okay, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. It does not work like that at all. So you've got to understand that it's not about that. The interpretation of type, and we'll get into this just a second. Let me just skip that point. Let me get back to what I was saying. So what I was saying is that, you have this third step, and that's type verification. What that is you work with the client and they tell you which one fits best. Okay. INTJ or INFJ? Which one? Which one fits best? They tell you, but they tell you given what? You give them the tools to help them walk them through that. And again, you have to be unbiased as a practitioner. You may think that they're a type, and we all like to guess, right? We all like to guess, but we don't say anything as practitioners. We don't try to indicate it. We don't try to have a bias. We try not to influence them in a different way. We try not to slant words to get us to be right or anything. We don't want to force them into a box. That's not the thing. The real skill is removing your own interpretation and your own biases against this person and letting this person carry on with their type. Because as a professional, we hold a standard and a code, which is, this is the furthest they're going to go, and the actual type verification is working with a practitioner. After that, there's nothing more official, which means what? Which means that if you give them the wrong type because of bias, that's unethical. They could spend the next 3 years trying to develop type based on what they believe about themselves, but it's wrong. So this is not this. It's an unethical use of the instrument. It's an unethical use of application. It's an unethical use of interpretation and verification. Okay, so point being is that MBTI results need to be part of an interactive process between the client and practitioner. This is one of the manuals I'm using right now, and it's the MBTI Certification Program Manual. So this is coming straight from MBTI. This is not some online resource. This is what all certified practitioners get. I'm going to pull some quotes out of this one, and I'm going to go through every manual, almost every manual that I have, to show you that this is not something I'm making up. It's actually how we interpret the instrument. Okay, here's coming from this manual. I'm gonna pull very specific things so you guys understand. You need to stop being online trolls, okay, and telling people what type they are. That's not how it works, okay? And I'm gonna get into the whole other thing in just a minute. So that being said, the practitioner's role in the interpretation process is to help individuals verify the accuracy of their results by providing information about type and asking clients to consider the information in light of their knowledge of themselves, okay? Asking clients to consider the information that I'm giving you in light of their knowledge of themselves, okay? It does not say anywhere, that I depict their type. It does not say anywhere that I tell them what their type is. It does not even say that the report is going to tell them what their type is. And we're going to get in that in a minute. The practitioner needs to provide definitions and examples, written materials, such as the Introduction to Type booklet, okay? The Introduction to Type booklet, which is what this booklet is. All clients get this. And what it is you will see in the beginning of this booklet, I say all clients get this. Actually, it's an optional thing, but they should get this. Okay. First hypothesis. This is the client manual. Clients actually get this. First hypothesis, they write their name or their preferred type into this box here. And it's called first hypothesis, your self-estimate. Your second hypothesis. This is what the reported results are, right? Your second hypothesis. And then you have this next one that says verifying your type, which means what? You need to choose, right? How to verify. Why would you tell a client how to verify their own type? Come on. Yeah, you would tell them because they're the ones responsible for doing it, right? That's the point. They have to do it. Okay, so it says, if your self-estimate and your MBTI results are identical, turn to the full page description of your type, or of that type rather. Of course, no description can completely capture anyone. You're a lot more complex than your type. However, if this description makes you feel comfortably understood, if the description makes you feel comfortably understood, it's probably your best fit type. Okay, see, look, the manual says it's probably your best fit type. It's not indicating. You're going to see a lot of this conditional language because MBTI got one thing right. Humans are very, very, very diverse. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of this may and maybe and could and can and will or not. They're not going to be assertive like will or is. Okay, they're saying it could be, it may be, and we're going to hear a lot of that in just a second. So, if your self-estimate and your MBTI results differ or your type description doesn't fit, you'll need to do some exploring to determine your best fit type. Why don't you just ask your practitioner? Or wait, even better, ask the online people who know you so well, right? Let's ask them because they know. You don't know. practitioner doesn't know. We've already accomplished and got that part. So let's just ask the online people, right? Let's ask all the trolls. All the trolls, let's ask them, because they seem to know more than I know about you. I don't know where they get this knowledge. Maybe they tap into the great database, or maybe they talk to Big Brother who's been watching you your whole life, right? Maybe that's the case. Okay. All right. That being said, we're about to switch manuals here, but there's one more thing I want to pull up. MBTI results must always be presented as a hypothesis during client verification. Okay. We talked about that. That's the third thing. That's verification. That's the third step. Client verification is the third step. Keyword, client verification. Okay. So we have to remember there's interpretation and there's verification. And so that's the big part of this. And there's a particular thing I think you guys got to be understanding in here too, which I'm not sure where it is off the top of my head, but we'll get to it because you're going to get a full picture today. Because I'm really tired of having the conversation with people about looking at somebody and telling them what their type is. And yeah, you're going to see a lot of behavioral tendencies associated with type, like TE. You're probably not going to see TE in a very humanistic way, right? You're probably not going to see that. But see, the keyword is probably. Functions manifest as archetypes, right? They manifest through archetypes. TE will look different in me than it would look in another ENTJ. It would look different in another INTJ. We've got to remember they manifest in archetypes. Okay. That being said, we understand the three-step process. So let me explain what step 1 is and step 2, not of the three-step process. These are actually step 1 and like step 2, right? Step 2, it's not the second step in the interpretation verification process. It's actually a different instrument. So I'm gonna kind of try to alleviate a little bit of confusion. There's form M and form Q. Form Q is step 2. Form M is step 1. Step 1 gets the 4-letter type. Step 2 dives into individual facets. Okay. So we'll get into that in just a second. So I'm pulling out the 3rd edition of the MBTI manual now, and we're going to reference this as source material since you guys just don't want to listen to what I tell you, because I don't know, if it comes from me, it must not be good enough. So let me just reference actual materials here, and maybe you'll start to listen that you're not so much of an expert on people. Neither am I. People are experts on themselves, right? Okay, so let's go here. Introducing the interpretation of MBTI results should be a joint process between the professional giving the interpretation and the respondent reacting. The interpreter should never say flatly, you are such and such a type. You are such as such this. You are this type, right? You are such a type. We don't make those inferences. The statement not only sounds arbitrary and limiting, but also may not be true. Of course, the MBTI results are not always right either. So if a person takes a particular instrument, they're not always right, right? The reported type should be submitted to respondents' judgment. Whoa, you take the reported type and you submit it to the respondent for their judgment? Wow, this is a lot different than these online trolls. Interesting. All right. So essential points to make the clients. Let's see if there's anything on here that's important. Yes, there is. People typically use and develop more ease and effectiveness with the functions and attitudes they like than with their opposites. That's true, right? That's what preferences are for. I prefer to eat this food, or I prefer to do this. I prefer to write with my left hand, so I'm going to probably be better with my right hand, but that's not always the case. It's, however, because this is not always true, one should not assume that having a preference ensures using it skillfully, or effectively. Whoa, you mean I can suck at extroverted thinking? Yeah. As an ENTJ, I can't suck at extroverted thinking. Weird. This is getting really weird. I don't know what's going on here. These trolls, man, I need to refer to them in just a second because it's getting out of hand. I mean, it's one thing to have fun with friends and be like, nah, man, you're not this or you're not that, but as if you're just some random stranger coming up to somebody and telling somebody what type they are or what they're not, that's really offensive. It's like me walking up to you and saying, like, like I know you, like I know who you are. That's where that, that hood saying is, you don't know me, right? You don't know me. That's that's insulting to them, right? Well, you know what I'm saying. You don't know me. That's the whole thing. You don't know them, right? It's offensive. That's an offensive thing. That's an offensive reaction. These people took offense to you assuming that you know somebody by looking at their behavior. We're looking at process here, not the end result. It's not about that end result. It's about process. It's very, very frustrating to see this over and over and over again. I'm just I'm exhausted having the same discussion with everybody, and it gets even worse. It gets even worse when people are coming out and trying to give me all the science about the functions and why they believe this person's this type and what they're seeing in their function. But at the end of the day, they're wrong. I don't care what science you put out there and how much you know about the functions. If you cannot properly follow MBTI guidelines to indicate type, because that's the core of it. These people have done all the research more than you have, regardless of what you think or not think. They've done all the research, and if they tell you that they can't accurately assess someone's type, there's not a chance in hell you can. So get over it. You need to just be human. For the love of God, ask somebody, why do you think you're this instead of this? Ask somebody, figure it out. Maybe you can learn something, right? Like, okay, we naturally are going to make a judgment. That's what we do, right? We see somebody and go, wow, that person is probably a P personality. That's normal. But I'm not going to go to that person and say, oh yeah, you're a this. How do I know, right? I can just assume based on their behavior. And I say, hey, you got a lot of behaviors that look like a P preference. Let's explore that further. Let's see if that's really your preference, or you're just operating like that because of some kind of life circumstance. You could be adapting because of this. You could be under stress, right? Okay. So if a reported function, attitude, or whole type does not seem right when the MBTI results are provided, respondents can discover and decide for themselves. Oh my God. What does that mean? This is the right book. I must have got this book from like a garage sale or Gonzalez down the street or something, because I don't know what this is. Like I don't know what this is about. Like I have no idea what this is about. Right? What is this? Oh, I mean, I'm in complete shock. Respondents can discover and decide for themselves. Let's just remember that. I want you guys to keep that in your mind. That respondents can decide for themselves. All right. Um, I don't know what to say. it gives this it gives this whole flexibility right here. Respondents can discover and decide for themselves. Now there is an addendum which says, with help from the interpreter. What does that mean though? Well, we just cleared that the interpreter shouldn't say that you are this type or this type. So what is the interpreter doing? Giving them information to help them make an informed decision. So if someone goes, well, I think I might be a P or a J, my job is to give you the difference between a P and J. Here's a P, here's a J. Here's what a P, characteristics of P may look like. Here's what it may not look like. Here's what a J may look like. Doesn't mean you are a P though. You need to identify and select one that fits you best. We're just gonna get, that's called best fit type or client verified type. Those are the same step in that process. Okay. Don't go to John down the street. He's not gonna have the answers for you. Okay. You have the answers in your own mind. Right. That's what we have to get through here, is you have the answers in your own mind. You don't want to go to the type trolls. They can be anybody. I'm telling you, I've been a type troll. This is not singled out to a particular person, okay? This is all of us, MBTI enthusiasts, hobbyists, people who like MBTI, people who like cognitive theory. We've all been type trolls, okay? We've all lived under that bridge at one point and sometime in our MBTI life. Unless you just like the first person to introduce you to MBTI was a practitioner and they gave you the right stuff and you kind of set you off on the right foot and you knew, hey, I'm not going to do that. Otherwise, the rest of us who were self-learned in a lot of these areas and self-taught and autodidacts, we kind of just assumed that we could do that, right? We didn't really know the difference. So yeah, that's I think one more thing in this book, and then we're going to switch because there's a lot of stuff to cover still. So you guys are probably getting bored at this point. So I want to make sure I kind of expedite this process, and I hope you're not bored because this is actually really good stuff. It's going to put an end to this whole. Well, I don't know if it's going to put an end to it. I don't know if I can stop it really. I mean, type trolls they're prominent, but I want you guys to use this video. Whoever's getting trolled by a type troll, I want you guys to know that this video is a reference. You can just link this video. Don't even argue with these people. Don't even waste your time with these people. You know what? These people are going through a process in themselves and they're learning. We all did it. So we can't really blame these people and act like you're a horrible person, right? We can't do that. But so we want to kind of avoid that. So yeah, here we go. The interpreter can ask the respondent which procedure is, oh, that was actually a bracket, sorry. If the client's assessment agrees with the reported results. So you see at the end of the day, it is dependent on the client. It's all over this manual, period. It's totally dependent on the client. In this portion of the feedback process, care should be taken to avoid implying that the client is wrong in his or her assessment, or that the reported type holds greater weight than the client's self-knowledge, which means that the instrument is even right. When it comes to you questioning the instrument, going, I don't think that's me, that's okay. The instrument can even be wrong. You know you better than the instrument. Some 144 question instrument isn't going to tell you who you are more than you know. You deserve better than that. You have so many facets. You have so many different types of things. The instrument isn't it. What you get with a practitioner is that three-step process. You get a hypothesis, you get a reported type, and we use those as tools to help get to that last stage, that best fit type in which you choose to type, right? John down the street doesn't know what he's doing. He's just going to look at you and tell you he's whatever. You know, he thinks you're ISTP. Okay. Okay, so if there's a contradiction, language such as you answered indicating the opposite preference of that dichotomy. So if someone disagrees, like so they say, you know, I'm a J, but the report indicated I'm a P, the proper response would be you answered in the J fashion, indicating that you have an opposite preference. So let's explore that further to figure out why you answered that way. Why did you answer that way? Was it because you were thinking about how you were at work? Was it because you were thinking about this, or were you in a situation? We're trying to get to something. Okay. And they may be like, oh, I thought that I did this at work, or I was under pressure, or I was stressed out, or whatever. And you're going to see that change under circumstances, right? Preference is what this is about. It's about type, core, preference. It's frustrating. Just really, sorry, I'm very frustrated about this because I've had the same conversation with so many people, and it just, last night was kind of the final thing. So I apologize to the person. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so, all right. Now I'm using the book called User's Guide for Step 2. It's a practitioner's tool. So this is for practitioners. We use the Step 2 particular tool. A few things I want to highlight here. Step 2 obviously is the facet polls. It's very different than the Step 1 preferences. Okay. Let's see if this is the right place to start. I want to make sure I don't confuse you guys. Let's actually probably go to the other book. I'll get to this in a minute. Yeah, let's do the other one first. I think it'll be easier to kind of get you guys to warm up to that. Okay. Yeah, this is a good starting point, I think. So what we need to do is we need to understand that if we look at the 4-letter type, right, you're going to have like an INTJ, and you're also going to have, let's say, a ISTJ. The 4-letter type is not, oh, you have introversion, oh, you have intuition, oh, you have thinking, and oh, you have judging. Do not think of it like that. They all interplay with each other. This is why it's called dynamics. The J will look a ton different in an INTJ than it would in an ESFJ. It will look entirely different. Okay, ESFJ is focused on the human condition. They're focused on human ideals, right? They're focused on morality and ethics. Do you think they're going to be so administrative? They could be, right? They could be. But do you think they're going to be more focused about systems and organization? They're judging with extroverted feeling. It's type dynamics. You've got to see that interplay. So here, coming from this manual, this is the MBTI Step 2 manual. Just so you guys know, in applying the Step 2 instrument, it is important to bear in mind that with typology, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. In other words, the four-letter type does not result from simply adding together a person's four preferences, which I just explained. Rather, a type is composed of interactions among the four preferences that are specified in the Young-Myers theory. These interactions reflect the dynamic nature of type theory. In type theory, the term dynamic refers to the flow of psychological energy between and among the four functions indicated in a person's type. Okay. That being said, an FJ is going to look a lot different than a TJ. An NTJ is going to look quite different than an STJ. Okay, as far as their processing goes, not an appearance. Behavior can be similar, right? We can see these behavior modifications, but they are different. The process is different. Type dynamics, we get to see that. Okay, and so we'll see that you can't just look at, oh, he's an introvert and he's intuitive and he's a thinker. He definitely prefers logic and he's a judger. So he has to be this way. Yeah. And I don't see that judging fast. Oh my God, he's an INTP. I'm about to explode, right? No, you don't know. It's going to look a lot different. That's type dynamics. So a lot of the descriptions of type are actually people trying to extrapolate on the dynamics between the four letters, right? They're trying to extrapolate on that. That's what a lot of these really not effective descriptions came from. It came with good intentions, but they tend to box people in. And so the online descriptions can do that. That's what the real frustrating part about this is. And, a lot of people, you may not like what I'm presenting today. I don't really care. It's all about the ethics of the instrument and treating people with respect. And that's why I get irritated with this. I really, really do get irritated with this. I'm guilty. I get irritated with myself for doing it. I mean, even with my friends. I mean, people, can you imagine, me being a master practitioner, a friend indicates they're a certain type, but I've never seen that behavior from them. It's natural for me to go, I don't know if that's right. But I've trained myself to start asking questions like, well, why do you think that over this? I've seen a lot of this. What do you think that you indicate that for? Right? What do you think that? And I'm trying to get more into that exploratory mode with my friends and people I care about, people that are close to me, right? And instead of, and I don't take it as professionally, which is a big issue that I should work on, but that's me. Point is, it gets really frustrating for myself too. So I'm guilty. I'm just saying, I'm not pointing at anybody because we're all guilty of doing this at some point, I think, unless you're probably an FE user, which you're all about not offending people. And this, well, you may be all about all. See, this is what I'm talking about. I biased that. I'm sorry. You may be worried about offending people, so you may not say anything to them about their type. So, all right. We know that the step 2 is about facet polls. So occasionally a person's facet scale may seem to contradict step 1 results, as when 3, 4, or even 5 of the facet scales are told toward one pole, but the reported preference is at the opposite pole. That means, let's say you look at this. That's not the right one, but let me just find a facet pole description. Yeah, let's use this one. All right, let's say that you see the facet poles here, and I don't know if you can see it very well, but here's like a critical questioning, blah, blah, blah. This person is preferring feeling, and they have all the facets in feeling. What that just said is they could have all facets in thinking and still prefer feeling. Very rare, but they could. This is coming right from the step 2 manual. I'm not making this up. If you don't believe me, see this highlighted portion? That's what I just read. Occasionally, person's facet scale. Okay, so that's where I was at. Occasionally, a person's facet scale results may seem to contradict step 1 results, as when 3, 4, or even 5 of the facet scales are toward one pole, but the reported preference is at the opposite pole. This may suggest that the client's step 1 preference, see the keyword? Double underline, may, doesn't mean it will, or does, it may suggest the client's step 1 preference on that dichotomy has not been accurately reported. It could also reflect a living or working situation in which a person is required to use or is rewarded for using the opposite preference, at least as measured by the facets we have available. Step 2 facet scale information may prove clarifying for such a client. Okay, so the facets are designed to help you clarify that preference, right? So if you got reported all your facets on one side, but yet you're this side, it can help you go, well, maybe I really do prefer that side. But it could also be wrong. Why is that? Because these 5 facets don't encompass the entire preference, right? So if I open any step 2 report, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Hopefully you guys can see this. Let me do, I'm just going to pull up any step 2. Yeah, let's just do this. Step 2. Just a second. I'm there with you. All right. Let's share the screen so you guys can see this. All right. So right here, this is an official Myers-Briggs tool. The 5 facets within a preference do not cover or explain the full meaning of the preference. In addition, the facets are scored differently than the preferences, and so your 5 facet scores don't add up to your step 1 preference score. Okay. So, as you can see, that's clear. I can't make that any more clear. If you feel that I'm not putting up an effective argument, I don't know what else to tell you. All right, so the 5 facet scores do not add up to a person's Form M Preference Clarity Index. Okay, Form M is step 1. That's also in this big box down here, just so you know. The 5 facet scores do not add up to a person's Form M Preference Clarity Index. So if you score all facets on one side, you can very well prefer the other side. And the point being is that those facets do not encompass the entire preference. They indicate it. Why do they indicate it? Because it's an indicator. That's what it's designed to do. It indicates. Could be this. It's likely this, but it doesn't mean it is this. It's not a test, right? It's not telling you what you are. It's indicating what you could be. And it's very good at doing that. When you start looking at it like a test, you're looking at it wrong. That's not how you do it. That's not how you look at it. All right, next part of this. Verification of client step 1 knowledge. Okay. Step 1 practitioners often find themselves with clients or several members of a client group who have already taken the MBTI personality inventory. In these cases, it is essential to clarify client understanding of the instrument, particularly with regard to typological and dynamic nature. Without the step, practitioners risk misinterpretation of applications or advanced training they are preparing to introduce. This is why these tools are only purchasable. Is that the right word? These tools are only purchasable by MBTI practitioners. I used to wonder why CPP locks these tools down. I've now just figured it out. I wondered why that I'm the only one that can purchase these tools. Now, obviously, you can find like back-end sources and pull them, but CPP is very specific about the copyrights and delivering tools to people who are not certified. If I give, seriously, you're taking. A lot of people don't have a foundation and they start building all this advanced knowledge, and this leads to unethical application of information, right? So imagine someone who really knows cognitive theory, but doesn't understand these basic principles that I'm covering today about type, right? As in, you don't know people better than you know them. I mean, they know themselves, right? That's a pretty core principle to the entire typing process, which is the client knows themselves best. That's all over these materials. I can't even find enough reference. I mean, there's so many references to that there's no rhyme or reason why you guys should think that you know people better than that. I get so frustrated seeing it. I can't stress it enough. You see behavior, you can indicate, okay, well, those are a lot of P-like facets. I see those in your personality. That's what's most prominent, right? That's what I'm seeing. But how often do you see this person? Maybe they're doing it at work. Maybe do you know this person from work? Maybe they turn on a different hat for work. Maybe they're stressed at work because they're operating out of preference. You don't know, right? So I've gotten to the point now where, and I'm not trying to take the fun out of this, people. I'm really not. I'm just trying to be ethical, trying to treat people with a little bit of respect. What I see is automatically people tell me stories and like, yeah, he's an ENTJ or he's a ISFP. And I'm like, how do you know? Did you ask him? Did he tell you? Or are you just assuming? See, I'm starting to ask you guys to use a disclaimer. Like when you say things like that, it's probably best to position it like he demonstrated the characteristics of an ISFP, right? He demonstrated the characteristics of an INTJ. If he's operating under normal circumstances and he's operating under his preferences, he demonstrated INTJ. I'm even now using the words that I prefer ENTJ because it's all about preference, right? I prefer extroversion, intuiting, thinking, and judging. But I can tell you, I definitely can do perceiving too. If you see me around a lot of my friends, I'm less structured around people that I'm just having fun with. A lot less structured. You can call it my Enneagram 7, whatever the heck you want to call it. I'm like, yeah, I'll go with the flow. Absolutely. But when it comes to business, if you know anybody who works with me, it's like boom, 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 boom. Everything's structured. And that's how I actually like to operate. With friends, I try to shut off my work mode because I'm trying to relax in the sense of what people tell me to do, right? They want me to relax. Hey, you got to learn to relax. So I was like, maybe I should take your advice and not take it so seriously, right? But when I was a kid, I used to structure everything. We're going to train for 3 hours. We're going to hang out for 2. We're going to do this. And then I realized people don't like that. The people I was hanging out with, a lot of INFPs, ENFPs, a lot of P personalities, they didn't like me trying to enforce that much structure on them. So I kind of got told with my life, like, chill out. So now with my friends, I'm kind of like laid back. You can look at me with my friends and you're going to say, oh, yeah, he's an ENTP because he prefers perceiving. No, I do not prefer extroverted intuition. No, I do not prefer introverted thinking. I do not prefer those things. I do not prefer extroverted. I do not prefer extroverted feeling. I do not prefer introverted sensing. Okay. Keep this in mind when you guys. Anyway, naive users of the MBTI instrument and their clients often mistake the 4 MBTI dichotomies for 4 unidimensional independent traits. I was just talking about that. The potential for viewing the 20 step 2 facets as independent traits is even greater. So step 2 can further confuse people. Okay, because you have all these facets, right? And you're looking at them individually. You got to look at the dynamics. All right, the dynamics of type. All right, and so we want to make sure we understand that. We want to make sure that we see those dynamics. We want to make sure that I'm sorry, I said native users. It actually says naive users of the MBTI instrument. And it's actually indicating naive practitioners here. It says naive users of the MBTI instrument and their clients often mistake the 4 MBTI dichotomies for 4 unidimensional independent traits. TJs look different than FJs. So if you look at the official book, what you're going to see in the standard book, okay, the MBTI manual, what you're going to see is actually classifications between types. You're not going to see, when I say between types, they're actually classifying them like TJ, NF. You're going to see that because those are the dynamics. And it's a little more advanced. And I don't really need to dive into that too much, but I mean, it's all over this book too. So I'm actually going to try to avoid that subject. But yeah, you'll see a lot of the classification of NF or, TJ or, EJs or NJs or NPs, because those are classifying dynamics, right? So there's that whole aspect that you guys are missing by saying, oh, this person, he doesn't follow routine. He's not a J. INTJs don't like routines for the most part. I can tell you that right now. Some of them do. But with the dynamic of introverted intuiting and extroverted thinking, yeah. Try to impose a routine on an INTJ, see what happens. Okay, so they don't even follow their own routines most of the time. I mean, with their personality. I mean, you might find one who follows a routine, but probably not. INTJs are extremely independent by nature. By the nature of their dynamic, they're independent. You pair introverted intuiting with extroverted thinking, that's a whole nother aspect. I mean, it's a lot different than you pair with introverted sensing and extroverted thinking. It's very different. The ISTJ, they're not the only different. You can't say the only difference between the INTJ and the ISTJ is one prefers introverted sensing and one prefers introverted intuiting. Functionally, yes, but actually in behavior, as far as type dynamics go, and actually how they operate and how they process and how they perceive the world is very different. It's very different. It's not just, oh yeah, you listen to concrete, but all the other facets of it, your thinking is the same, your judging is the same, your introversion is the same. That's not the case, right? It's different. You got to see how that SI plays a role into the personality, whereas NI plays a role into the personality of the INTJ. You know, if you read their descriptions, you're like, wow, these are really different, and it's bigger than just one prefers concrete, one prefers abstract. Because if we think about that, there's a lot of INTJs out there who have a concrete facet. So why the heck aren't they ISTJs? Right? What could that possibly be? My point is, stop being a troll. All right. Particular things that I want to pull out of here, okay? If facets are out of preference, yeah, right here. Sorry. When using either the step 1 or step 2 results with clients, be aware of how readily the numbers on the reports can be misinterpreted. People generally interpret numbers to mean quantities, such as apply them to indicate deficits, excesses, or the right amounts of skills or abilities. Such incorrect beliefs regarding type preferences and the facets may lead clients to expect that they having a preference for something means you must be good at it. For example, if they have a preference for intuition, they should be good at brainstorming. Or if their results favor concrete facet pull, they should be good at noticing details and using facts. As you know, these are inaccurate interpretations. Help your client understand that skills and abilities are different from type preferences. Okay. Even when a client understands the difference between preferences and skills, they may expect preferences to be used consistently and exclusively. Help them realize that having a preference leaves them to be free and able to use it opposite when they choose to do so. They can use the opposite facet when they choose to do so, or the opposite preference when they choose to do so. Right? Like I said, when I'm with my friends, I tend to be more laid back. I tend to appear more like a P. Does that mean all of a sudden I become an ENTP? Because I appear like a P, all of a sudden my dominant function is extroverted intuition. I move through this great metamorphosis chamber, and my brain is naturally rewired into like a whole new person, into a new characteristic, into a way of processing, and my ego has totally identified with the objective, intuiting world because I just got relaxed with my friends. Okay. All right. Next thing, out of preference results. Type does not develop in a vacuum. If from birth onward a person's type were consistently affirmed, honored, and encouraged, there would likely be no variations within a type. Although within each type, there would be differences due to characteristics unrelated to type. Okay, what this is indicating that is if a person's type were consistently affirmed, honored, and encouraged. Okay, so if I were hardwired as the ENTJ, which I am, and my parents and everybody I knew and all my friends encouraged my type, like my friends in the past didn't say that you were too structured hanging out, right? They didn't say that you had to stop ordering everything because you need to relax. And they didn't tell me that, but they told me, you know what, you're an ENTJ. Let's just accept the way you are and let's enjoy it. Let's let you structure our lives, right? Let's let you create, command, and conquer our lives, because you know what, we know you're an ENTJ and we accept you. We love you. Oh, all right. So anyway, point being is if that were to happen, it's basically saying that you wouldn't have other facets, right? You'd have all the facets in line. That's basically what it's saying. From a type perspective, however, all ISTJs would be pretty much the same as would ENFPs and each of the other 14 types, but we are born and raised in a world with stresses, strains, demands, rewards, punishments, and a myriad of other aspects of living. Types develop in the context of such life experiences. Out of preference results are best explained representing a compromise between a person's natural type and the demands of their environment. Oh. Out of preference results, right? So we can have five facets that are outside of our selected overall step 1 preference. We have 5 facet polls. We could have that. It's just very unlikely because those facets were selected for a reason. They were selected because they're the biggest indicators. They're the best chance you got in indicating what your overall step 1 preference is. So they help you, point you in the right direction. But no, if you think that you're an if you see that INTJ and you relate to that description a hell of a lot more than you relate to INTP, and you're like, man, that's me. INTJ is definitely me. But yet you have all the facets on the other side. You're still probably INTJ because you understand the dynamic. You're relating yourself to the dynamic. You're not relating yourself to the J. Okay, you're relating yourself to the dynamic. Dynamic is you have to understand that about typing. When I went through my master practitioner course, it was about the dynamic. The dynamic is key. Okay. Demands of the environment. When I was a kid, I couldn't use TE. Like a real young kid, I couldn't use it. I was oppressed. Right? I was oppressed by my brother. He was very controlling. I couldn't exert any force into the world, so I went into introverted intuition and buried myself in my thoughts. Oh, you must be an INTJ because of that. No, but it still plays a role in my facets, right? It influenced my life in a certain way. So I have a out of preference facet. Can it change? Absolutely. A lot of it's hardwired. A lot of it's, cognitive scarring or whatever. But there's still, facets can fluctuate, but your hard type doesn't. Your step one does not change if you get it right. And you get it right by knowing yourself. You don't get it right because someone tells you what it is. You just know yourself. Yeah, that's me. I mean, I had a particular person back when I guess before I was certified. It could have been right after I was certified. Either way, I got into an argument with somebody. I really regret it. And I lost a relationship over type. It's so stupid because I didn't believe what they said about their type, and it wound up into this huge conflict. And really, at the end of the day, it's stupid. So, yeah, it's stupid. You don't know that person. And I've done all the stupid things. Like I said, I can't judge you any more than I judge myself. I just get frustrated seeing the things that I see. So anyway, there's a couple things here. Let me make sure I've got all my points out of these books, so that way you guys have a clear indication of everything I'm going to do, and then we're going to do a little fun little thing here. Okay, let's play a game. All right, game time. I like games. Do you like games? Yeah. So. Okay, let's share my screen, and we're gonna have a fun little time on the internet. Okay, so I'm on my back office here. Let's just go to YouTube. Oh. Make sure this is ready. All right, so we've got YouTube here. Let's, I'm going to pull up a friend's account. Let's do Little Miss Harbor. She's often terrorized by type trolls. So let us, and she's going to get some advertisement here. So let us just pull up one of her videos where she is terrorized by type trolls. All right, so we got, I'm going to call some people out. Now I'm going to be trolling the trolls. Who trolls the trolls? It's like some kind of ethical question, right? Who watches the watchers? Okay, so let's see if anybody actually... So this person's actually relating. That's good. I like that affirmation. I think that she kind of really nailed it here, so I don't see a lot of type trolls harassing her here. I guess people finally got to the point of actually agreeing with her type there. I think in her other videos, people didn't really agree with their type. So let's just go back a little more, and then we're going to go play on my channel a little bit where I can see the frustration. I don't know if she's deleted a lot of these too. I have no idea. I'm just guessing random. So I'm not going to take you guys through a wild goose chase, but I am going to pull you on my latest stuff. Let's just close that out. Whoops, I need to do that. Let's close that one out. Let's go to my channel. Let's go to the latest and the greatest. Okay, so guest stream. This is what I want to really call attention to. All right, this is awkward, but the INFJ guest is an INFP. All right, we know that Michael Pierce is an INFJ. Why? Because Michael Pierce obviously understands cognitive theory, number one, and he applied it to himself, number two. That's the primary reason why he's an INFJ. Okay, it doesn't sound very scientific, but after what we went through, do you think Michael Pierce has the competence to verify his type on his own? That's a question we can ask legitimately, right? Can Michael Pierce verify his type on his own? Yes, he can. I have full confidence he can, because he understands each type and he understands preference, and he especially understands dynamics. He relates to INFJ a lot more than he relates to INFP. This guy, whoever, INFPs have a slant for philosophy. INFJs do not. What rule is this particular person breaking? Okay. What rule did we just go through that this particular person is breaking? They're stereotyping. INFJs do not like philosophy, do not have a slant for philosophy. Where is that in the facets? Where is that in the type description? INFPs are bent toward philosophy because they're FI driven. I'm FI driven. I'm not really big into philosophy, but I like to read it once in a while. Oh, is that because I'm inferior FI? Oh, my bad, bro. They paint pictures that express their FI. I mean, he puts up some good stuff. Not to completely troll this guy. But here's where I should troll this. Okay, he means they. Complete lack of TE. Okay. Oh, the complete. Never mind. He didn't mean they. He meant the complete lack of TE. Objective logic means that INFPs rarely have the slightest clue how the functions work together in reality. No, you just implied that INFJs don't have comprehension. That is absolutely stereotypical and unethical, and I do not like that. I'm very opposed to that in every way, shape, form, and that's not true. There's tons of INFPs. In fact, the person that taught my certification course is one of the most competent people I've met, and he's INFP. He prefers INFP. He's one of the most competent, knowledgeable MBTI experts. He's super certified. He totally understands type dynamics and how the functions work. He's super credentialed. He's an incredibly great presenter. He's super structured. Everybody thought he was a J personality. Nope, INFP. Oh, wait. He can't be an INFP because he doesn't have the slightest clue how functions work together. He does. Guess he can't be INFP. He's wrong too. So let's move on. So his next argument was, you surely know the facets for the P and the J preference. Look at the P and J facets and ask yourself where he fits. This is basic stuff. Stick to the exact science of preferences and functions, and it will remain clear. No offense. Yes, I am offended. I'm not offended because you're offending me. I'm offended because you are assuming a position of arrogance and thinking that A, you know more about this than anyone else, and B, that you can tell someone their type more than anyone else without even being credentialed in it, and you've never administered a single instrument in your life. And if you have, you've been improperly trained, because I just showed you. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, oh man, you can see what this guy's doing wrong already. Okay, you can see how he's violating what we just covered. So I reply with a rather anal response, which probably wasn't the best response. Everybody else agrees. We can go down and we can see. Let's see. Okay. This is where it really gets interesting. NI is subjective strategic intuition. NI is the big picture, global, more objective intuition. But you needn't get all confused with the function. So what he's doing is he's condescending. The most accurate way to distinguish an INFJ from an INFP is to focus only on the JP preference. Is he a J or is he a P? This particular thing, he's actually correct. Okay. Yes, you determine the J or P, but you do it in a way that's along with the guidelines we just covered. If the ENTJ is master practitioner, he's likely to have the step 2 manual. If in the MBTI step 2 manual, the facets for the J preference and the facets for the P preference are clearly spelled out and make distinguishing difference between the two super easy. No, they don't. We just covered that. You could be 5 facets in the other opposite pole. Do I have to pull the book out again? No, I don't. I'm not going to pull it. Everybody has seen that in the video. I pulled the book out. I showed you. You could totally have 5 facets in the opposite preference and still prefer this different step 1, right? You could. He said, like I said, this is awkward. Are we going to work toward the truth or be people pleasers? I'm not pleasing anybody. I'm catering to the truth. I'm arguing with you and I'm putting up an argument. And you fail to assess my arguments. You fail to assess what I'm telling you. Okay, so knowledge and understanding are 2 different things. And yes, he did determine his entire function stack incorrectly. Now, what we're seeing is a very pronounced arrogance, right? And we can say that, oh, he's probably a TJ because he's arrogant. No, we're not going to go that route. I don't know why he's being arrogant right now. Maybe he's having a bad day. Maybe he's stressed out. Maybe he's, he didn't like my response. Maybe he thought I was an ass. I mean, it could be a number of things why he's being condescending and arrogant right now. I'm not going to assume that his entire personality is arrogant, right? We know he's trolling right now. Well, we don't know that. I'm interpreting it that way, but we don't know his intention. Maybe he's trying to educate. Maybe he thinks that we're all stupid. Maybe he has a legitimate reason to think we're all stupid. Okay. But he has some good points. I mean, obviously, he has a good understanding of cognitive theory. I mean, he's not dumb, right? He actually understands what he's talking about when it comes to theory. What he's missing is the actual instrument. He doesn't have the training to make these kind of assertions. And even then, you don't make these kind of assertions because that's what the training tells you not to do. So obviously, he's gotten his hands on some really good materials. But see, this is what happens when you build a skyscraper on in a sand pit. You have a poor foundation, and all you're doing is further, destroying your foundation. You're further under. You're not building anything. Nothing. Every effort you're putting out there is failing because you don't understand the basics. This is the reason why CPP does not let people have materials like this. It's destructive and it's unethical. Okay. I like his position here, though. They do make great videos and are captivating speakers. All types work together because they could lead to great videos and factual and accurate as well. Yes, absolutely. They could. I agree with you. Okay. But see how he keeps using the scientifically thing, but yet he's providing no scientific evidence. He's providing nothing scientific. All he's saying is, I hope this ENTJ will dive into and solve this INFJ versus INFP question scientifically. I not only have like 10 videos on this topic, but I also have making this video to provide the final hammer to why this person's wrong. Okay. There's no argument. It's in the books. Don't argue with me, argue with the books. The people who created the instrument, argue with the MBTI theorist. Hell, argue with Myers-Briggs. I mean, they're not alive, but you can. You can go to Myers-Briggs Foundation and tell them they're wrong and that everyone's type. In fact, they should appoint you as the leader. Okay, that was me, and I shouldn't say that. Okay, but point is, you can see the frustration I have because this is not just this person. It's over and over and over and over again. Okay? And I know, see, this is what I really like this particular person. I'm not trying to be an ass for this person because obviously he's trying to educate, or I don't even know if it's a guy or a girl, to be honest with you. I'm going to call him a he for now. He's trying to educate us because he thinks that we don't know what we're talking about. So somehow he doubts our competence for whatever reason. And so he likes some of the other content I put up. And I would prefer to have this person on our channel, but following a proper ethical conduct. I had to reply that this particular person misunderstands the facets, preferences, the functions, MBTI typing process, and step 2 in general. Okay, which he does. He doesn't have that full understanding of how the functions interplay with each other. Okay, so we have this. I did point out some things he did agree with, but I was pretty much fed up with the conversation because I've had it too many times. Well, he has to counter argument again, and it says, it's not about me, it's about the difference between the J and P preferences. What does your step 2 manual say about the J and P preferences? Now he's getting condescending again. Like, I don't know how to look this up. Okay, I've not only been trained in this numerous times, but my manual, okay, we already know what the step 2 manual says. We went through it. All of us, whoever's watching this video still went through the dang manual. So let's see if this guy's right. Don't even let me interject my opinion. Let me just go through it. Does it say that P or J is determined by whatever a person feels like they are? Or what a bunch of handful of YouTuber commenters agree on? Does it say that a P or J is determined by whatever a person feels like they are? Well, audience, you can answer that question because we have went through that. The answer is yes. Or does it say that P's are casual, open-ended, spontaneous, and that J's are systematic, planful, scheduled, and methodical? No, it does not say that they are. It says they can be. And those are facets of that particular preference. Okay? Facets. Those doesn't mean they are. Okay? Because you're going to find opposite and out of preference scores all the time. This is what happens when you get a high-powered tool in the hands of somebody who doesn't have a strong foundation. And that's why they train us. That's why we don't deliver these tools to people. You completely take this unethical approach. Anyway, it gets worse. J's seek closure and completion even in their speech. If a J uses and well, it will be between completed thoughts. That is not true. We know that. He's looking at behavior as an accurate assessment and indicator of type. J's will use all J's in the history of mankind have never used and in mid-sentence. Is that what he's implying here? Have all J's in the history of mankind literally have never used and in between sentences. A P will just start talking and continue talking and make long run-on sentences that continue on and on. If you've watched any of my videos, I do use and ums as I'm thinking, and I do run on and on and on. I like to rant. Oh, shit, I must be an ENTP. So he says, just like Mr. Calm Casual Michael, the INFP does. Okay. Well, first you say calm. Calm is not a facet, first off. So we can just remove that. That's not a facet score. Calm is not a facet score. That's a disposition, right? It's a mood. All right. So casual, yes, it's a facet score. If you're assessing Michael Pierce because you think he's an INFP because he's casual and because he says and well, we just went through the thing. That's just ridiculous. And as far as casual, yeah, if you think he's casual in his casual approach, if we look at the facet scores, right? Give me just a second. Oh, I said I guess I'm an ENTP. I better watch out. I'm about to have the metamorphosis into becoming a dominant extroverted intuitive. It's about to come out. Hold on. All right, so brace for it because things are about to change. Your life is about to be rocked because I'm about to make a metamorphic transition in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Actually, I'm looking for the description here. Okay, so let's see. Casual. Yeah, here we go. All right, so general organizational style. When you say casual, what are you implying? Because in the step 2, I'm looking at the step 2 manual right now. If you say casual, you're implying that as according to the step 2, casual means their general organizational style is casual, which means that you're implying that Michael Pierce is most comfortable with an easygoing approach to everything in their life. This is absolutely not true. Michael Pierce is one of the most thorough, stubborn people as far as getting his content correct and right. He's extremely systematic. If you look how his videos are structured, extremely systematic. We know that that probably doesn't fit him, right? But we have to confirm it with Michael Pierce because that's the right thing to do. My observation is that's incorrect. Casual people like to remain open to happenstance and be energized by the unexpected. That is also not true. Michael Pierce does not like unexpected things. When I ask him off-the-wall questions, and what I've seen from my experience anyway, he doesn't like those things. He likes to understand and have a full understanding of things and have everything kind of scheduled out, right? He even knows his video schedule. He's got it figured out. Like, okay, I don't want unexpected things to pop up. You know, even in conversation, he's not comfortable with that from what I've experienced. And I've had a lot of interactions with him, a lot more than this person particularly has. Okay. But we have to ask Michael to be sure. But we know what Michael's going to say because he prefers J. He's already told us his type. Okay, but I'm making a point here. Find that systems inhibit their immediate response to a task. Now, Michael Pierce is extremely systematic. Not mind being interrupted. That's a characteristic of a casual person. They don't really mind being interrupted. Michael Pierce actually thinks interruption is rude. And, you know, you'll see that when he interrupts, he apologizes immediately. It's a belief of his that you shouldn't interrupt him. He probably doesn't appreciate it personally because he doesn't feel like it's appropriate to anyone else. You know, he's an extremely kind person. And in my experience, I even feel bad for interrupting him because that's his belief. I respect his beliefs, you know, and I get carried away with ideas and I tend to do that, but that's not true, at least in my experience. Find variety and newness to be intrinsically satisfying. I guess when it comes to information, yeah. But he talks about his sensory experiences and how uncomfortable they are for him, and he likes to pay attention to his thoughts. You know, I don't know if that's part of his characteristic. I'd have to explore that further with him. And he also, another facet is they tend to be comfortable with postponing decisions. No, he's pretty decisive if you actually get to know the guy. So casual people see systematic people as rigid, overly task-oriented, and unable to enjoy the moment, yet admire their efficiency in getting things done. All right, so let's flip it to systematic real quick. I'm going to breeze through this. Use systems to stay on task and to use time and energy efficiently. Like to develop contingency plans. Find clutter to be distracting and chaotic. Develop a system before starting on a task. Want to organize and control their time and physical space. Push for closure and decision making. Yes. As far as I know, Michael Pierce, I would say these are accurate. Again, ethically, he needs to confirm it, but and I hope he doesn't feel like I'm putting him on blast, talking about him right here without him being here. But the point is, I'm showing you that, this person has a perspective which can be very limiting. And I'm showing you that I have an alternative perspective of Michael, right? My perspective is completely different. Whether we know my perspective is true or silver rings or whatever, a circus or whatever, I don't know. Point is, we don't know. Without him confirming, we have no idea, because I have a perspective and you have a perspective. We can argue our perspectives all day. Oh yeah, he's casual. Oh no, he's not. Yeah, he is. No, he's not. Because he did this. Well, because he did this. Because he did this. That's dumb, right? It's dumb in the sense of it's not going to get anything done. It's not going to accomplish anything because he has to confirm it anyway, right? My experience is that he does have contingency plans, right? If something fails, he has something else. He doesn't like clutter. He definitely develops a system before starting his projects. He has everything figured out. In fact, I admire his ability to do that even more than I do. I kind of just take it and run with it. It sounds more P-like. Oh, but you're a ENTP, Jack. No, I'm not. No, I have a plan, but it's like a half plan. I'm a TE dominant. I just do. I live in the world of organizing, even more so than reflecting. So I want to take something and run with it and see if it works in the real world. I want to test its applicability, right? I want to put it through the fire of the external furnace in a way. All right. And so my J is a lot different than his J, which goes to show you type dynamics doesn't play a role. I'm a TJ and I'm an NTJ, right? That's totally different than an NTP. That's also different than an NFJ. They manifest completely differently. Okay. Systematic people see casual people as lazy, inefficient, impulsive, disorganized, and admire their ability to go with the flow. That's 100% true for me. I'll tell you that. All right. So point is, he goes, if you disagree, please explain. That's the point of this video. Now approaching an hour and a half and going through all this stuff, he's like, I would enjoy the discussion and many could learn from it. So he's automatically taking a position that he's right. Many could learn from it, but I won't learn from it. He could say we could learn from it, right? Because I can tell you right now, if I were to have a conversation with this guy, I could learn something from this particular person. He's read stuff that I haven't read, but I can tell you he is wrong about his approach to MBTI. As far as every material that I can produce that's official from MBTI, he's incorrect. But I can't tell you that he can't teach me anything. So this is a position that he's taking that's incorrect. Or he says, or sling baseless accusations and dismiss me personally to keep up the appearances, and he will happily unsubscribe and not comment further. Well, Silver Rings, I can tell you one thing, that I'm not slinging any accusations on you. I am telling you you're wrong, and I've never dismissed you personally. I didn't say get off the channel, okay? No baseless accusations. All my assertions is because you're wrong. You're flat wrong. That's all there is to it. There's no baseless accusations. In fact, anybody who knows me knows that I don't just throw out baseless things. I always write novels to explain stuff. Anybody knows that. When I have an assertion or a point or a counterpoint to something you've said, it turns into a novel of me pointing out why it's this way. That must be the TJ in me, but it's me showing so much objective evidence and why you're wrong. That's the whole point of this video. It's me not wanting to type all this out and me showing that this is one of the many things that is problematic with people in the typology community, right? This is a problematic thing. When we go around telling people what types they are. I mean, yeah, we're never going to get rid of the fact that we like to guess, but it has to be confirmed. Remember the 3-step process, right? The 3-step process exists for a reason. The 3-step process, the last step is client verification. Okay. All right. So my take-home message is stop being a type troll. You're type trolling people in your life. You're type trolling people online. You just really irritate me. And don't stop being it because you irritate me. I mean, stop being it because it's not right to assume that you know people better than you know yourself. I'll tell you, that's the one thing that irritates me most is when people come into my life and tell me that and act as if they know me more than I know myself. And that's the one thing that really, it's a pet peeve of mine. And when I see somebody doing that to someone else as an introverted feeling person, it goes against what I believe is a universal value. You don't do that, regardless of what culture you're in. It's my personal belief that you don't go around assuming that you know stuff about people that they've never confirmed. You can make an educated guess, but it's really, really frustrating to assume that you just watched somebody. You probably didn't watch the whole video. You probably watched 10 minutes and heard him say, and you're like, oh yeah, he's an INFP. And then that's what I mean. You can't possibly put yourself in that position in the future. All I'm saying is that it makes you look very incompetent, and it's not an accurate representation of you, because I don't think you as a person, whoever you are, not just Silver Rings, but all the trolls, I don't think you as a person is a troll or are trolls. I don't think you as a person are bad people. I don't think you're horrible people. I don't think you're even mean malice. I think you have good intention. It just manifests in a way that's very frustrating for a lot of people. It's very frustrating, and you don't know how to properly communicate with people. Instead, you think you can just shove knowledge down their throat that's has no applicability, especially when it's wrong. You know, I don't need to. Me taking the time to make this video, it's just the capstone of what I've been preaching for the last year and a half. Right? I've been preaching about preference, not strengths, preferences, right? I'm preaching about not behaviors. How many times do I have to say this? Stop paying attention to behaviors. Okay? I'm talking about stop analyzing the end result and look at the process. How did they reach that result? Right? Stop looking at MBTI like a skill. Right? If somebody says a lot in public presentation, they probably need to be trained more effectively in public presentation. It has nothing to do with being a J or a P. Right? It has nothing to do because you're indicating a strength. It's not about strengths. Said it in the manual. You can write a manual, but I guarantee you I'm not going to follow your system. I'm an MBTI person. Right? There's areas that we just have to understand that this is where my frustration comes from. And I didn't really want to put someone on blast, but the point is this has got to stop. It's too much. It's making my job more difficult because every time I type somebody, I have to fight all these biases that everyone else has forced on these people. So anybody watching this video at any time, I want you guys to know that just do the right thing. Okay? The right thing is be ethical. Use the instrument as it was meant to be used. Teach it like a true expert in it. Okay? Don't do this child stuff anymore about going around telling people what type they are. It's like going to that bad therapist. You walk in their office and they're like, yeah, I'm going to tell you all about your life. Do you all remember that like Good Will Hunting? It's kind of like that. You know how he walked into Robin Williams' office and then he just started telling Robin Williams all about his life? Come to find out that Matt Damon, whatever the name of his character was in the movie, Will Hunting, duh. Okay, so it comes out that Will Hunting actually learned something from Robin Williams, and he was wrong about Robin Williams in many ways. Yeah, I mean, he had some of the base facts right, but it was really insulting to the point where Robin Williams got really pissed off in the movie. That's the point. You can't do that. It's not the way to approach people. It doesn't work. I know very few people who are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. It's the same thing that's going on in the dang politics, right? It's the same stupid thing. I know this and I know this and I know this. And you know, and I know I'm right, and I'm going to argue it, and I'm going to shove it down your throat, and you're going to believe me. Since when in any kind of debate has the other party go, oh, you know what? I'm no longer a Republican. I'm a Democrat too. I'm on the Republican ticket, but who cares? Let's both be Democrats. You're right. What are you really trying to accomplish? It makes no sense. Think about your actions before you do things with people. Like I said, this video is probably going to piss a lot of people off. I don't really care at this point. I mean, when it comes to people, I don't care. As far as like, when it comes to protecting some people who don't have as much knowledge about type, that's the way it is. So if you don't like this video, I'm surprised you made it this far. Thumbs down at all, whatever you want to do. This video is a tool for people to understand that there's more to MBTI than what's on the surface, and I have thoroughly read through those books over and over and over again, and I know where I'm wrong. And it's certainly not this, and it's certainly not Michael Pierce's type, you know. And it's really insulting. It's really, really insulting to Michael as well, that he decided to share 2.5 hours of his time in his busy life to come on our show just to be terrorized by our commenters about his type. It's a good thing he's not going to probably see that comment. You know, it's just really insulting. Michael Pierce has spent 3 years of diligent and effective research in understanding himself and typology, and has took the liberty to produce many, many videos educating a lot of people on type. And he's done an excellent job at it. And to just say that he's wrong without even providing anything other than and in his speech, heck, I do it. That's your only argument? And that INFPs like philosophy and INFJs don't? And you talk about pointing to science? Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. That's not the way it works. That being said, you know, that I hope everybody else enjoys this video. As far as the content that's provided, anything you're going to learn about how MBTI typology works, and how we actually work with clients and typing professionally with people. So Silver Rings, my final note to you is I don't want to put you on blast. Like I said, I didn't want to, but it's a long chain of series of events, and I'm putting a stop to this type of behavior, at least on my channel. It's not appropriate, and it's not something that I feel is beneficial to anybody and anything on the channel. And so I suggest that you know, understand that I do appreciate your commentary, and it did provide me the fuel to produce a video like this. But I do appreciate your viewership and your compliments, even though they were condescending at times. I appreciate your effort and intention to educate. I don't appreciate the approach, and I definitely don't appreciate you not considering Michael Pierce's perspective and not even asking why he thinks he's an INFJ, not even imploring or exploring why he may be that way, right? Why that he may be an INFJ who actually may appear more casual. You know, I think you need to take more time to really analyze and ask questions about people instead of just jumping to a conclusion. This is a foundation for many different things. This type of thinking is a foundation for a lot of the things that are seen as negative in this country. So anyway, the point is I care about the effect that we have on people, and I care about your viewership, obviously. But I don't think it was an effective approach, and this video is now going to serve as a tool for effectiveness and type. And maybe I'll produce another video in the future, and I'll redo this video. But I think it's important that we understand that these arguments that we put out are rooting in, they're inconsistent. They're inconsistent with what is actually in the manuals. They're inconsistent with what is actually happening. So that being said, everybody watching this video, I appreciate you. I appreciate your subscribership. This is definitely a rant. It's going to be labeled a rant. I hope that you guys get around to watching it, if you do. And I really appreciate everybody who's going to take the time to really learn about typology in full. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.